welcome back. So today is going to be a little bit different because there's something that I've been seeing going around on YouTube for a little while, and it's kind of bugging me a little bit. So this is not exactly going to be a rant. Okay, it might turn into a rant, but I'm going to try to make this not very long. But for those of you who don't know anything at all about me, like if you haven't followed me over to YouTube from my blog, then chances are you don't know a whole hell of a lot about me, because I don't think I've actually said anything about my background or whatever, blah, blah, blah. For those of you that don't know, I was born in Jamaica. I came here about 2 months before my 15th birthday. And I lived in New York for pretty much all of that time up until about 5, almost 6 years ago when I moved to Georgia. Okay. So growing up in Jamaica, Jamaica is a very class stratified society. It really has very little to do with skin color, even though, well, it has some to do with skin color. Not a whole hell of a lot, but it's a very class stratified society, and the division between the people that have money and the people that don't have money is quite stark. So I grew up in Jamaica, and I was, for as much as I hate to admit it, part of a more privileged class in Jamaica. So a lot of I was really shielded from a lot of the poverty that is endemic to a lot of parts of the country. I went to prep school my entire life, and literally the only reason that we came here was because we had a hurricane on the island, and my mom's business failed because she couldn't get any products. She couldn't get her raw materials in, and my uncle was up here, and he was a doctor, and he said, just come here. So that's the entire reason why we came. And before that, her parents are Cuban, and, well, one of her parents is Cuban, and the other one is Anglo-Indian, and my grandfather is the one who's Anglo-Indian, and he met my grandmother in Cuba and brought her over to Jamaica. They got married, and they came to Jamaica when my mom, I think, was like maybe 4 or something like that. Because of my family background, when I first started college, I started off in medicine. I was gonna become a doctor because, you know, basically that's what we do. And I realized that I didn't want to be a doctor. So I was more interested in anthropology just based off of the dynamics of the way my family was built. Anthropology was very interesting to me, so I decided to start studying anthropology. And I started off in cultural anthropology because I'm absolutely fascinated by cultures, all kinds of cultures. It didn't matter what, it still doesn't matter what. However, I went towards the more scientific part of anthropology, which is physical anthropology, but I was also really good at linguistics, so I studied that as well. I do have degrees in anthropology, in physical anthropology, and yeah, because I'm very like science oriented, mostly the biological sciences, but anthropology is such a holistic discipline that it kind of brings everything together. Like, you have to study every part of anthropology in order to get a degree in anthropology. If you decide to go on to the master's or the PhD level, that's where you start to specialize. But in undergrad, you have to learn every facet of anthropology. You have to do archaeology, which was never my favorite. I don't like dirt. Archaeology, physical anthropology, linguistics and physical anthropology are my area. And then there's cultural anthropology, and then there's one more that I always forget about, and I don't remember what it is. There's physical, linguistic, archaeology, cultural. There's one more. I can't remember. There are 5 branches of anthropology. I can't remember the 5th one. So the thing that I want to talk to you guys about that's been going around YouTube that I've been seeing a lot of, and one person in particular that was quote unquote very anti-consumerist, but turned out that she really wasn't. She was just bitter. Is as it relates to the beauty industry. Now, the concept of anti-consumerism is a really large concept because like anthropology, it encompasses a whole lot of different perspectives in terms of societal, religion, political, and the way that consumerism affects those aspects of daily life and the structure of society. So in order to understand anti-consumerism, you need to first understand consumerism, or what I like to call consumption. Consumerism is basically not anti-consumerism, I'm sorry. Consumerism is basically the continued accumulation of material things that either one, have no value, or they have they're unused. It's just basically getting things for just the mere fact of having them, or because it's a status symbol. So that is basically what consumerism is. Anti-consumerism then would be the philosophy or the socio-political ideology that opposes consumerism because of any number of factors, be it the way that it affects us in terms of globalization, how it affects us in terms of the ecosystem, how it affects a society. Anti-consumerism is also opposed to the dehumanization of people. So for instance, a celebrity stops being a person when they become a celebrity because it makes people want the things that they have, so people aspire to be celebrities so they can have the things that their favorite celebrities, say, I don't know, Bella Hadid or one of these chicks out here, what they have. You see it play out on Instagram or Twitter all the time. When a very famous person will say something, talk about how they feel, maybe depressed or suicidal, or they're sick or something, and people will just rush to their mentions and start tearing them down because that person is no longer a person. They're not worthy of feelings because they have all these material things. They are no longer a person. They've become a symbol for whatever that class is, or whatever that status symbol is, if that makes sense. To embrace anti-consumerism in such a way that it becomes a philosophy for you, or a part of your life, to me, you have to be coming from a very privileged place. You're either coming from a very privileged place, or like that chick that I was talking about earlier, you're coming from a very bitter place. Because if you're coming from a bitter place, you're coming there because you want the things that you see other people want, but either you can't afford it or you have no way of getting it, so you lash out at people. But more often than not, the people that I see that are very, anti-consumerist are the people that can afford to not be consumers, if that makes sense. To take anti-consumerism, the philosophy of anti-consumerism, and incorporate it in your daily life or whatever, comes from a place of incredible privilege. Because, to be honest with you, most of the consumption that happens in Western countries. And when I say Western countries, I'm not just talking about North America. I'm talking about Western Europe as well. And that kind of massive overconsumption that happens directly impacts developing nations. Our demand for certain products forces these nations to produce things that are not sustainable to their economies. So take a country literally all you have to do is look at a country like Haiti. Haiti produces vetiver. I don't know if you know what vetiver is. Most people don't realize what it is. Vetiver is a plant that is used in about, I want to say, just about almost every luxury perfume out there. It extends the wear of perfume. It tends to amplify fragrances. So just about every luxury perfumier out here uses vetiver in their their formulations. Haiti is the world's largest exporter of vetiver. They export about 80% of the vetiver in the world. Now, that's a plant that can't be eaten, right? But going even further back, Haiti has been bled dry by Western nations because they've been having to pay reparations for their freedom since the country was basically, since they basically fought and won their freedom. They've been having to pay reparations to the World Bank for, the price for them to not be slaves. Tell me if that makes sense to you, but in any case, so the people of the country have been having to do whatever they can in order to have some kind of income coming into the country. Now, because they export about 80% of their agricultural crops are vetiver, and then they export a lot of the other plants and products that grow on the island, like they export cacao, mangoes, and other kinds of fruit to the world. Almost nothing that is grown in Haiti stays in Haiti. Most of the food is stuff that comes from aid or is being imported into the country. So the prices are super high. A lot of people in Haiti burn coal for warmth and for to cook and stuff like that. So what started happening was people started cutting down the forest, cutting down the trees in the forest, which led to, deforestation, which led to erosion of the soil, which then leads to, droughts and plants not growing, so crops are being even further reduced. So they get a lot of earthquakes, but theoretically, because they have that mountainous region, theoretically, it shouldn't always be as bad as it is, but because of the deforestation, because most of the top of those mountains is completely gone, when they get a earthquake, it's devastating. And then right after an earthquake, they usually get a tsunami, and because there's no trees left anymore, it just washes straight into the island. So, like I said, you can talk about anti-consumerism all you want, but, I mean, are you going to tell people who have never had anything that it's not okay to want more than what they've never had? It becomes a chain reaction. It becomes it's like a domino set that falls. You know how you set up a domino, you flick one over and it falls. So the last earthquake that Haiti had, I think it was in 2010. Was it in 2010? Yeah, the big one, the huge one. Nobody was really the first people on the scene in Haiti was Jamaica. The first people that started taking refugees into their country, because the rest of the Caribbean islands are assholes and didn't want the Haitians in their countries because they're all dicks. The first people to start taking refugees into their country was Jamaica. Jamaica is better off than Haiti, but not by much. So you have a country that's producing things that they can't eat, things that have no value to their economy, so they can't build an economy. Because of that, it forces deforestation of, their island. It causes massive damage to the island, and people die. People are displaced from their homes, and then you have another country who's also struggling, having to be the ones to take them in. So, your anti-consumerism is trash, because you're still out here buying the perfumes. So now that I've ranted about Western consumerism and who it really impacts, let me talk about how it relates to the beauty community. So like I said, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about, you know, anti-consumerism and how nobody needs this much, that much, whatever, or how it makes people feel when they see other people have things. First of all, there is such a thing as personal responsibility. There really is. If you feel some type of way when you see other people buying things that you know that you can't afford, that's nobody's problem but yours. Nobody's telling you to go out there and try to be like that person. Personal responsibility is a thing, man. It really, really is a thing. So if you know you can't afford it, but so-and-so has it, but you really want it, but you really can't afford it, what you gonna do? You gonna spend your light bill to go get something because somebody else had it? Does that make sense to you? Don't get me wrong. I'm not above seeing someone having something and being like, yo, I would really like to get that. That really looks good. I should get it. But more often than not, I sit down and I have a conversation with myself and I'm like, yo, do you really need that? And half of the time it's like, no, you really don't. So I don't get it. And that's where personal responsibility comes in. You don't, and like I said, you don't get to blame other people for your bad decisions. You just don't. And that's the problem that I had with the little echo chamber, that girl that I'm talking about, that YouTuber that I'm talking about, the little echo chamber that she lives in. Like, she was complaining about how when she saw big YouTubers do with things, how it made her feel bad because, you know, she wanted to run out and get it and she couldn't get it. But that's not that YouTuber's problem, and that's not that YouTuber's fault that you're jealous or that you want something that you can't have. That is not their fault. So I don't understand where you're coming from. So her anti-consumerism wasn't really anti-consumerism. That was just her being bitter and jealous and hateful. And the little echo chamber that she lives in, like, I didn't realize that there were so many hateful, jealous, bitter people in the world, because her comment section was just like mad chicks co-signing on that stupidness. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Personal responsibility. Don't get something if you can't afford it. Don't get something if you don't need it. I mean, and then don't shame people with huge collections because you're jealous of their collection. That doesn't make sense. That person might be a collector. That person might be able to afford a huge collection. That person might just, want a huge collection. So what? If they can afford it and they buy it just to look at it, that's their business. Don't shame people for their personal choices. Challenge 2018. How about that? Make sense? Makes sense to me. So when you say anti-consumerism, but what you really mean is I'm a hater, what you really mean is I'm bitter, I can't afford this because I'm a student and I'm sitting in my, sitting in my dorm room complaining about other people having stuff that I can't get because I can't afford it. Don't call that anti-consumerism. Call it what it is. I'm bitter and I'm jealous. That's what that is. Now, like I said, don't shame people for having large collections because you don't know. You don't know what anybody did to get to where they got to so they can afford those huge collections. And also, you don't know what people do with their stuff. Personally speaking, I have a ginormous collection. I have been blogging for 5 years before I started doing YouTube a couple of months ago. I've been blogging for 5 years. So I have a massive collection. However, at least 3 times a year, I go through all of my stuff and I divvy it up among my friends, my family, and now that my niece is 14, she gets some stuff too. And then I divvy up my stuff and I take it to a women's shelter, a domestic violence shelter, and I donate it. I usually do that towards Christmas and then spring again because it just feels like a new beginning. So, and my stuff, I use my things, but I don't give people things that are like heavily used and look gross. My stuff usually looks very, very almost brand new. Anyone who's gotten anything from me can tell you that anything that I give is usually looks brand new even if I've used it. So once again, You don't know what people are doing with their stuff. You don't know people's motivations for why they do things or why they get things. For some people, it's a coping mechanism when they buy things. Some people just like to buy pretty things and look at them. That's okay if that's what they want to do. Not your business. Some people buy things because they're collectors and they collect packaging and they collect cute things. Once again, not your business. So how about this? How about we don't shame people that do what they want with their own money? How about that? You know, don't hate on people because they can afford the things that you can't and the things that you want but you can't afford them. Don't hate on people because they're doing what they want with the money that they make. That's their business. And don't say you're anti-consumerist, you're an anti-consumerist when you're encouraging people to buy mugs. Bitch, that's still consuming. You know what's free? Minding your business. That's always free. Back to this anti-consumerism thing. It either comes from two places. It comes from a place of being bitter and petty because you want something that someone else has and you can't get it. Or it comes from a place of incredible privilege, like you're sitting here behind a camera telling people who have never had anything before that they shouldn't want anything because it impacts whatever. First of all, you're not going to tell some kid from the third world that they don't need those new Jordans because they can finally have them, that they don't need those new jeans that they can finally have because they've never had anything new or of their own ever before. You're not going to tell that girl that that cute backpack that she has, she can't have because she's never had a backpack to go to school before. Or you're not going to tell her that she can't get that iPhone that she finally got because she grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with 5 of her siblings. No. So once again, that is coming from a place of incredible privilege, and you need to check your privilege when you're trying to tell people what they should or shouldn't do once they get to a point where they can afford the things that they've always wanted. Like I said, minding your business is always free. Now, I'm not an advocate of wanton consumerism. Personally, the way that I live my life, I'm not a wanton consumer. I shop a lot when it comes to makeup, but my makeup does good because like I said before, I tend to donate my my makeup to shelters, to battered women shelters or homeless shelters. My makeup does good. It doesn't sit here, it doesn't collect dust. I don't just hoard it like a dragon and stare at it because it's pretty. Yes, it's pretty, but I also give my things away to people to make them feel better about themselves. So you don't get to tell me how much I should or shouldn't buy. Everything has value. Now, if you're just sitting on your ass and you're just talking about anti-consumerism and you're not actually doing anything, such as helping other people, then your anti-consumerism is trash because, well, you're talking a good game. You're talking at people. What are you doing? I have a problem with people who talk but don't do anything. Like, some people are really good at telling you what to do while not doing anything themselves. Basically, you know, I'm sorry if this is a little bit ranty, but I find that people talk a lot. People talk a whole lot, and most of the people that talk aren't doing a damn thing. There are a lot of people out here that are doing things for people behind the scenes that you don't know about, and you hate them because you see the way that they live and you think that they're all about consumption and consumerism, but you don't know that person's story. So go ahead and, like I said, mind your business, because that's I don't like to see bad behavior rewarded, and it just irritated me, and I was just like, you know what, let me talk about this right quick. If you guys have any questions for me, not description box, why do I always say that? Comment box, ask me a question about anything and I'll answer. But yeah, sorry if this was a little bit ranty today. I'm just in a mood, I guess. I'm over people. I'm over things. I'm over people talking and not doing. So, yeah, it's been real, y'all. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.